I'm Christina, a recovering people pleaser turned assertiveness expert. I was tired of taking the back seat to what other people wanted, and I finally cracked the code to go from hesitant and timid to self-assured and confident. I became a women's empowerment coach so that I could help other women like me find their words, feel heard, and step into their power. If you struggle to speak up in tricky situations and you're looking to change the way your conversations go, you're in the right place. I don't know about you, but when I'm not exactly clear on what it is I'm trying to do and what I want, I end up doing nothing. So I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on right now to illustrate this point. Right now, I really want to tackle the weeds in my yard, but I have no idea where to start, so I haven't done anything. There's a little bit of analysis paralysis because, when I was young, we would pull the weeds. That was always the most effective way to do it, right? Or you can just take a weed trimmer and you can do it that way. You could spray them, you could spray and pull, you could do all kinds of things, right? So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because that same idea applies when we kind of have an idea of something that we want to say, but we don't even know how to bring up the topic or what kind of situation we want to bring it in, and we start getting into that analysis paralysis. And that leads to a feeling of overwhelm. So a few other things can happen when we're not clear on the outcome of what we want. Like when we're thinking about a scary situation, or we're thinking about, I know I need to talk to my boss. What is it that we actually want? Is it that it needs to be a long, drawn-out discussion? Or is it that we just need a simple yes or no? That kind of thing. So without that clarity, I know I've done this, and I wonder if other people, we might catastrophize, we might over-exaggerate a situation when we don't really know what's up ahead. So going back to that example of the weeds, there's that entire yard full of weeds, and I actually have a pretty decent sized backyard. Where do I start? Do I start with the tallest? Do I start closest to the house? Do I start where I know my dogs like to go more? And then all of a sudden, it's just easier to work on this podcast or whatever it is. So our brain does a really good job of trying to protect us by kind of projecting a possible outcome. It's like, well, we know this is safe. We know this thing that we've done before, for me, releasing a podcast episode or doing a post on Facebook. I know what that looks like. I've been through it before. Whereas looking at the state of my backyard with all the weeds, I guess I did it years ago. I must have. Last year it wasn't bad at all. So I'm frozen. I think you can even hear it in my voice. So it's like, okay, well, do I start on this task that I don't even know that I can finish? Or do I continue my Game of Thrones marathon? Or record a podcast? This is episode number 4. I know I can do it. This is probably safer. I'm trying to illustrate this point. It's like if it's something that you haven't brought this topic up, or you need to have a difficult conversation with your spouse, if you're not clear, there's plenty of other things you can do, right? So the honest question here, really, it boils down to this. What do you want? And that may sound like a simple question, but it's also like, what do you actually want? For me, There was a situation where I kept hemming and hawing. I was more comfortable doing research and getting data and marinating it in it. And then it was like, what I actually want is a yes or no answer. And no amount of research is going to give me the answer from the other person that I need. Isn't that funny? But yet it's safer. I know how to do research. I know how to Google things. I know how to look up things with different companies. It's safer. The other thing you might need to get clear on is, what are you scared of? So it's like, okay, I need to ask this person a question, or I need to give this person this feedback so we can change how this is working. And you might know, like, okay, I need to talk to them. You might even know, okay, here's something that I want to say. And then, okay, what happens? What is the worst thing that could happen? Do you even know in a perfect world what it is you want, like how you want it to go? Here's a little bit of a side note that will help give you a little bit of power, just knowing this. We as humans, we tend to run from fear and run towards a reward, right? But we are more likely to run from a pain, which is why we end up stopping ourselves or chickening out, as I like to call it. That pain, again, if we're not clear on it, we need to get that clarity before we head into the conversation. Heading into the conversation with that clarity is like having a destination at the end of your trip. You can't just say like, okay, I'm going to Texas. You can't book a flight to Texas. You have to book a flight to Dallas or to Austin. You have to pick your destination. What I've found in myself and with others around me, when we get that clarity and we know what it is we actually want, the road to get to that outcome isn't so scary. And I'm actually going to dive into a personal example in a little bit. Going back to the weeds real quick. The first thing I need to say is, okay, I know I want a yard that's empty of weeds. I want the weeds gone. How am I going to do it? Am I going to pull them by hand? Am I going to spray them? Am I going to just get a weed cutter and just string trim it and that's it? Be done with it? Or what? How? And really, this is it's basic, but it's powerful. The late self-improvement coach, mentor, teacher, Bob Proctor, he has this video on YouTube, and he talks about this a lot in different trainings. You just have to make a decision. That's all it boils down to. You decide, we're going to move. And then you move. Or you think, wouldn't it be nice to get a new apartment or a new house? And maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, kind of thing. But when you decide, here's what's going to happen. I am going to spray my weeds. Now I can do it. Now I can move forward in the process. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy and everything. What does this look like in terms of speaking up when you haven't been successful yet, right? I want to tie that back to this big mission that I have. So let me give you my personal example. I was needing some input on a recent trip that my husband and I were planning. And usually, because I'm a really good planner, I usually do that piece. He finances most of it and we decide together where we want to go and everything. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty details, that's usually something that I do. I was back and forth with this whole concept of, did we want a certain upgrade? Because we were going on a cruise, and there were some upgrades that I looked at and I was like, I want that. I made that decision. It was very clear for me. And for this one particular upgrade, we could choose like one of us or both of us, we could customize it that way. And I don't know why, but when I was looking at that one particular one, I was really bogged down in, okay, so if I pick this for him, these are the pros and the cons. If I don't pick this for him, this will be the pros and the cons for that. What would I want to do? Do I think he would actually use it? How much would it be? What's the cost to item ratio? Would we use it every day? I want to show you this is how deep my thought process was going. So he could get it and I wouldn't get it. Or what about on the days when we would be in the ports? Would it make financial sense to get it then? So it turned out all of this internal hamster wheel spinning that I was doing, what I really needed was a yes or no answer from him. And it was really interesting because when I was describing this entire inner dialogue, he looked at me and he said, well, why don't you ask me? And I looked at him like, I literally needed to ask him what he wanted. I could choose for myself and he could choose for himself. I'm telling you this story because I literally agonized over this decision for about 2 or 3 days. And I want to share with you what that upgrade was. That upgrade was whether or not we were going to get a drink package. Not an alcoholic beverage package, like a fountain drink package. And so I was filling in these little details of, well, I know he likes to drink Diet Coke. Well, does the normal, if we don't get this package, are we going to get to have anything except water? Are we not going to? What does that even look like? I don't know. So I looked at all the different websites, and all the different, where the cruise said what was included, what wasn't included. I read the terms and conditions. That's how deep this went. And when I didn't explain the whole process to him, but when I kind of started giving him a peek into where my brain was going, he just kind of looked over and he was like, why don't you ask me? And that's also honoring him and what he wants. Light bulb moment, right? All I had to do was ask. And so I did. I said, okay, would you like me to get that upgrade? And he said no. He said, he doesn't want to spend any little extra money like that. He'd rather spend it on excursions. Literally mind blown. It makes total sense. 2 days of my life right there, gone. And the funny thing too was that all of that researching, all that time that I put into it, he brought in an entirely new perspective that I was like, oh, yeah, duh. I really feel like the catalyst moment, the big shift was me realizing, here's what I really need. I don't need the best value. I don't need to know the ins and outs. I don't need to do the what if scenario. Those aren't the things I actually need. What I need is a yes or no answer. Am I clicking the box that says yes, upgrade me? Or am I clicking the box that says no, thank you? It's comedic. It just how quickly I got to that answer once I realized what I actually needed. So this is a little bit of a longer episode, but I wanted to just share that idea with you and maybe help you think, what is it that you're agonizing over? And what is it that actually needs to happen? So now I'd love to hear more about the types of conversations and situations that you're having trouble with and the outcomes that you're looking for. I have a Google form that is linked here in the episode notes, and I would love for you to tell me a little bit about your situation without having to go public with it, on social media. My mission for this is to better serve you. I know what I've been through, and I can offer what I know, but I can make this work much more powerfully if I know what you need. So go ahead and get into the show notes, and you'll find the link to that Google form right in there. All right? Talk to you soon.